billionaire backers. I am based in Toledo. I am a co-chair of the Sam Pollock Club and a member of the district committee of the Ohio Communist Party.
Austin.
Hello, my name is Austin. I'm a Central Committee member of the Ohio Green Party representing Kent and Portage County. I'm also a member of the International Committee of the Green Party of the United States and a member of the Green Party of the Republic of Korea. The Green Party is the party of climate mitigation and creating a future for us all. From the Arctic to the Amazon, our world is on fire, and scientists say we have less than 10 years to mitigate our course with climate disaster. Only with an independent eco-socialist party can we create the change that are needed for our country and our state. The Green Party is also the party of the Ohio working class and the people of Ohio. If we want to create a future, we must first put it within our hands. Thank you all for joining today, and I hope you enjoy this live stream of third-party politics.
Okay, let's start with the questions. First question I'm gonna ask, why should we stand independently for the two big parties? What is our role as it important to be politically independent? Alex?
I think we should, to put it in simple terms, we should stand against the two parties because they're running our country kind of in the ground and making it look like a non-democracy, trying to keep everyone off the ballot. And I think, to put it at least simply first, we need other options because voters continuously say they don't want X, they don't want like A and B. They want to see a D and E and F. They want to see whatever they can because we have a variety of differences within the major parties. I mean, there's such a thing as MAGA communists and Republican socialists, for crying out loud, you know. And it just begs the question, should we give people more choices? The answer being obviously yes, but to put it in a bigger terms, I think the role of the little parties, the minor parties, they deserve to be there to like push positive agendas and like things that would change the course for a party for the better. Whether it's the Green Party wanting to push forward environmental policy, the Communist Party wanting to put forward workers' rights, or an independent candidate simply trying to bridge both sides of the duopoly and left voters, or the Libertarian Party wanting to push for like freedom of, say, GSM individuals or gun rights. And I think it's important to be politically independent because let's say your third party might not be a good fit and you leave it, you should try and stay independent or look for another third party because you clearly were there because you realized that the two sides that represent the duopoly don't actually fit you yourself. And you would only be seeing them yourself as a lesser evil. And when giving people those options, they no longer feel that they have to claim something as a lesser evil. They can walk away from the duopoly, the power structure, and the corrupt governance. And I think a great example of this is within the Democrats with Tammy Wilson. She ran with $5,000 as her budget, give or take, for the primary, while her opponent, Bill Sykes, ran with $1 million. She wasn't even really a Democrat, but that's besides the point, and she ended up winning the nomination with $5,000 while the other duopoly guy spent $1 million. And she ended up having a campaign chaired by almost exclusively non-Democrats. And essentially, like, if duopoly candidates were more like that and put our interests first, maybe people wouldn't see it as bad, but we keep getting a lot of people that just represent, let's keep a party here, let's move things slowly, and let's get nothing really accomplished. And just virtue signal on television and write conspiracy theory articles on one side of the aisle.
Luke, why should we stand independently from the two big parties? What is our role as it is important to be politically independent?
Well, the CPUSA stands independently of the Republican and Democratic parties because neither of these parties are made up of workers fighting for socialism in the USA. It is a matter of principle and integrity that we remain politically independent and bound to the interests of the working class. Our role as minor parties now is to get big business out of politics. As long as the capitalist class can legally game the system from the financing of campaigns to the accessibility of polling locations, we will not find ourselves on the debate stage alongside Republicans or Democrats, and certainly not in any major public office.
Austin, why should we stand independently from the two big parties? What is our role, as it is important to be politically independent?
Our role, specifically as the Green Party, is to bring up the issues that the average American face, the average worker. We cannot have revolution and change inside a counter-revolutionary party. A lot of people believe that the Green Party is just an offshoot of the Democratic Party. However, the Green Party has never been an offshoot of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, liberal parties over time, have never stood for environmentalism. They have never stood for the workers' rights. Many of our policies have been co-opted by the Democratic Party, whether it comes from the Green New Deal, which the Green Party invented back in 2010. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took the Green New Deal, and while it's good that there's a national discussion around the Green New Deal, a lot of it has been watered down, a lot of it has been diluted, and it's no longer the Green Party's Green New Deal. We, for example, oppose nuclear power. In the state of Ohio, there has been one of the largest corruption scandals in American history to deal with the issue of nuclear power. Nuclear power is a failing business, and it is the most expensive form of energy production. Not only that, it takes 20 to 30 years to get a new nuclear power plant built. In that time, the climate catastrophe will not be mitigated in that amount of time. So just the prospect of nuclear power in the state of Ohio is not an option in order to mitigate the incoming climate catastrophe. So it's very important for us to stand independent of the Democratic and Republican parties, because if we don't fight for the issues the average person faces, if we don't fight for the issues of climate, if we don't fight for issues of workers' rights or LGBT liberation or immigrant rights, there will be nobody to fight for those. So it's very important for minor parties and third parties to have a voice and a choice in our electoral system.
Thank you. Move on to the second question. As there are no true independents elected at the federal level in the United States, what is the biggest hurdle to overcome? Alex?
The biggest hurdle to overcome would be the election laws and the corporate media and other interests. Because a good example that I'm aware of is the Libertarians, say Mark Tibbetts and Chase Oliver. Most of you probably having heard of the latter. Both of them were prevented by Nexstar and separate races in separate states from appearing on the debate stage. Chase was told, oh, go get $50,000 and a bunch of other stuff. Mark was told, oh, you need less than $50,000, but get some media attention. Too many of his media outlets happened to be Hispanic for the liking of Nexstar, so they used it against him. In Kentucky, PBS took a candidate and said, nope, we're not going to give you the chance, even though it's public access to speak. I know some people who've previously been on this call have talked about their personal experiences running for office and being disenfranchised. But it really just is terrible. And then when you have a candidate like, say, Justin Amash, who gets elected and switches parties, he ends up not winning his reelection if he were to run again, or getting pushed up the Congress, Senate, whatever it be, simply because they no longer identify as a member of the duopoly. And the best we can typically do with these third parties, it seems right now, is get people elected to state house. But that requires to move mountains, and sometimes in really small states this happens. And a lot of people will just surrender and say, oh, this Republican got elected in a state that leans one way on the political spectrum or the other, so we'll consider them a libertarian. Or in New York, someone could say, oh, that's just a Green Party person because they're a Democrat that seems very environmentally friendly. But the best way really to get an independent elected maybe is just to get out to people and push and try to build coalitions, kind of like Evan McMullen did, because he came close to winning that election without any true support from the duopoly. He had multiple third parties interested in helping him, and he didn't align with any party specifically.
Luke, as there are no true independents elected at the federal level in the United States, what is the biggest hurdle to overcome?
The largest hurdle for third party and independent candidates is the two established parties in power right now. The Republican and Democratic parties both find themselves comfortable with the backing of unimaginably wealthy donors. We need to first champion the union struggle taking place in America today. Workers are filing for union elections at an unprecedented rate, and when workers earn more, they become a greater force in the American bourgeois democratic system where money rules. Next, we need to get corporate financing out of our democratic processes. As I said before, the capitalist class can legally game the system. The capitalist class chooses who gets enough money to run an adequate campaign. They choose who gets media attention, who gets advertisement. They create the conditions that allow the two-party system to survive. They limit democracy. We need laws expanding the rights of the working class and restricting the rights afforded to the ruling capitalist class.
Austin, as there are no true independents elected at the federal level in the United States, what is the biggest hurdle to overcome?
I just wanted to take a second to push against what our Libertarian representative said here. He brought up the Evan McMullin situation in Utah, I believe. Even though Evan McMullin was running as an independent, he was endorsed by their state Democratic committee and financed by a lot of Democratic donors. So I do not believe he was a true independent in that aspect. Even though he was a center-right conservative candidate, the Democratic Party had absolutely no qualms in endorsing him and supporting his campaign. The most important thing that we can do as Ohio minor parties is the fact that 33% of our state representative races in Ohio in this previous 2022 election went uncontested. There was only one candidate, whether that was one Democrat or one Republican. Shockingly, a large amount of our races are completely uncompetitive. That's because the Democrats and Republicans get together right before the election and say, we'll run for this race if you run for that race. We'll run for this judge seat if you run for that state representative seat. So many of our local elections in the state of Ohio are uncompetitive. It really is a one-party system in many places. So our jobs as minor parties, whether that's the Green Party or the Libertarian, is to be that second party. Whether it's in East Cleveland, where back in 2018, we ran a Green Party candidate for mayor of East Cleveland and got 34%. Or in rural Pike County, Western Ohio, where there's one party rule of Republicans, and there hasn't been a Democrat in some of those areas for city council, state representative in over 20 years, completely abandoned by the Democratic Party. Our job is to be that opposition party, not opposition voice, to bring democracy back to our state. On the federal level, our biggest concern is public financing of elections. There is no public financing of elections, as well as ballot access. In 2010, there were 6 minor parties in the state of Ohio. And over the course of 12 years, the Secretary of State, the Republican Secretary of State, and the Republican governorship, Republican State House, have banned all 6 minor parties: Constitution Party, the Natural Law Party, Socialist Party, Green Party, Libertarian Party, and the Socialist Party in Ohio. All used to have ballot access 12 years ago. But due to the undemocratic system that the Republicans and their Democratic enablers have been supporting for the past 12 years, 10, 12 years, we have uncompetitive elections and all of our minor parties have been banned in the state of Ohio. So we need to create better systems for public discussion and actually achieve our rights of assembly and free speech and freedom of association that is afforded in the United States Constitution.
All right. Alex, why should the people vote for your organization specifically?
Well, the reason people should vote for libertarians is because we're the party of freedom and we're the party of trying to just let people get left alone. We're pretty much the definition of anti-duopoly. We hate both sides. We're willing to collaborate if need be on little issues here and there with like other parties. We definitely prefer other third-party candidates to get elected over the duopoly for sure. But first and foremost, we want our candidates elected. We support GSM rights. We support medical freedom, whether that's abortion rights, because we don't want to regulate a woman's body. on the whole. We typically prefer if a woman gets to make her own choices. And we want the government to kind of just stay out of women's health. Mask mandates, we want that stuff gone at the federal level. Vaccine mandates gone. We want people to be able to see kind of just whoever they want without the government interfering. Like, the choices should be between a person and their doctor, not a representative they may have not voted for, and their non-existent rights that were taken, that as it's seen by the state. And we want to protect gun owners. We want to protect GSM individuals, as you can see with like Chase Oliver. He wants us to have tons of armed gays around the country to protect the LGBTQ plus community. And we can see the same with the BLM movement. We want tons of armed and protected Black Lives Matter activists and other individuals protecting Black people from like police brutality and crime and all sorts of other hateful things and systemic racism based issues. And our party can definitely push forward and act and like fight for freedom. We also make the effort to look at like why certain laws were raised and why they were put into the position to even be considered in court, and in many cases completed and supported by both sides of the duopoly. Like in Tennessee, the reason that they have such high a bar with more than 50,000 votes being needed for the non-duopoly candidates that are partied is because the Democrats and Republicans didn't want the Black caucuses to form their own third political party, rise up and get enough votes to start taking power away. You can see in Indiana, we could use, say, a Libertarian because the guy they ended up electing has been fired from his job as a Republican from the Secretary of State position, had harassment allegations against him, blew $40,000 on a nonsensical vehicle. And the Libertarian was the only one really trying to reassure that we can have voter safety by pointing out some of the lunacy of the right with false accusations of stolen ballot stuff, while also providing proof that the Democrats themselves have even had poll.
Thank you, Alex. Your time is up.
Luke, why should people vote for your organization specifically?
You should, if given the opportunity, vote for a member of the Communist Party USA, because as you can tell from everyone's answers here tonight, capital plays far too large a role in our democratic processes. Working people do not have the money to run for office. And we're running up against the 1%, actually, you know, the richest 1/10 of the 1%. And we are the 99%. The Communist Party USA represents the working class. And if you do not own capital, which you use to produce more capital, you are a member of the working class and you will benefit from socialism. That's what I have to say. If you'd like to read our program, go to cpusa.org.
Austin, why should people vote for your organization specifically?
I would like to echo what our friend, our representative in the Communist Party said here. If you don't have capital, you have nothing to be afraid of. When a socialist, Green Party, we are an eco-socialist party. We are the largest socialist party in the country. When we talk about wealth redistribution, people with $30,000 of student loan debt, be not frightened because they don't have any wealth to be redistributed in the first place. We're talking about people with hundreds of thousands of acres of land, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and who own the factories, who own the private enterprise that run this country and run this capitalist economy. The Green Party, again, the Green Party is a party of climate disaster, or mitigating climate disaster, sorry. Green Party is the party of mitigating climate disaster. We are standing for a country for us all, an inclusive and equal society for everybody. No matter if you are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, immigrant, Muslim, we want to create a safe and equal country for us all that is healthy. The Green Party is also the only opposition party in many places around the country and around the world. We have 100 member countries in the Global Greens, ranging anywhere from Spain, Italy, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, most of Western Europe, and Central and South America. So it is very important because the climate crisis does not care about our artificially drawn borders on a map. The melting of the icebergs affects everybody in this world. We are currently losing so many people a year due to climate catastrophe, and we are losing entire nations that are being swallowed up in the Pacific and Indian Oceans due to the melting of the icebergs and climate catastrophe. COP27 was a failure. Recently, many international organizations gathered in Egypt to have a climate conference. However, there were more corporate sponsors at this climate event than there were climate activists. Coca-Cola was the biggest sponsor and the co-sponsor of this climate catastrophe conference. Coca-Cola is the largest producer of single-use plastics in the world, co-sponsoring a climate conference. So it's quite clear that the current systems are set up to fail and they are not set up to represent us. That is why we absolutely need the Green Party in order for a safe, viable, and healthy future.
Alex, do you think entryism to major parties is an option?
You say that again, sorry, my mic was messing up.
Do you think entryism to the major parties is an option?
Not really. I don't believe, I guess, as a libertarian, even though like it's been an issue with like all parties and even ours recently with Mark Victor, where someone will surrender to the duopoly. I just don't necessarily believe entering into the major parties is a good idea. I like the intention someone might have behind it, like good on you for at least considering it, but like it just becomes a cop-out because then you get like an AOC or Thomas Massey. And it's like, oh, AOC cares about the new Green Deal. Yeah, she could have run as a Green. Bernie Sanders ditched his third party to become a Democrat. Thomas Massey said, I don't like that statement of anti-racism. I'm going to go vote Trump. And it's like these people keep trying to say I'm part of the Liberty Caucus, Freedom Caucus, Socialist Caucus, whatever, that are in the duopoly that, you elect because you think, oh, they're liberty-minded. Yay, let's get them. Or, yeah, they're socialist or communist-minded. But then when they enter, they don't do what you want. They bow down. They typically surrender and sometimes are more, we need to get my side elected, even than the average blind voter could be. And it's like, you elect these people who, through that mindset, and then it's like, they came in at the entry level, you thought they were going to succeed, and then they kind of just became your average crony, working for big business on the side a little bit while also helping like other parties here and there, as Austin mentioned, and just in general, they have the same interest really at the end of the day as any other Republican or Democrat. They're nothing really special or different. And they will try, if they have some connection to a smaller party like Working Family or the Greens, to like get some of them to join the Republicans, Democrats is like a small arm of the duopoly that no one really notices, to just help vote for their people and not actually run somebody. Or they'll try to go after someone like the Libertarian Party and go, hey, maybe you should get your candidate off the ballot and stop running. Or they'll say it's like a dereliction of duty, as one Republican put it in Texas, when we retained ballot access there and the court ruled in favor of us keeping it. But it is in theory a nice idea, but it also leads to then the plan B being thrust someone forward, like pay for Mark Victor's campaign or pay for Evan McMullin or insert anyone else and just say, here, give them Democrat money. And I mean, I'm sure there's cases of Republicans that throw money at left-wing people for the sake of saying that they're not part of the opposite side of the duopoly. Let's just hand them cash.
Luke, do you think entryism to the major parties is an option?
It's certainly an option. It's something that we can do. But is it something we should do? I'm not sure. I certainly, as a principled Marxist-Leninist, could not make it very far in the Democratic Party. But if you're somebody belonging to maybe a social democrat party, you might be able to make some progress within the Democratic Party and do some good for the working people in your city, state, and what have you. So I would say, if you can do it and you are willing to, you should do so, because these parties are not going to change. You might as well infiltrate the Democratic Party if you want to continue voting Democrat and they're not doing what you want. So I wouldn't do it myself, but I definitely see it happening in the future.
Austin, do you think entryism to the major parties is a valid option?
No. No. The Democratic Republican parties are parties of war, capitalist and imperialist interests. Anyone who is a principled socialist, communist, left-wing activist, libertarian should absolutely not support any of that type of dereliction of duty. If you are an anti-imperialist, the Democratic Party has bombed Vietnam, Cambodia, Yugoslavia, Lebanon, Syria, Libya. The Republican Party, it should be even laughed at, thinking that somebody who is opposed to government regulation and opposed to all of these they should be laughed out of the building when they say they oppose government regulation, but vote for a party that wants to tell women what to do with their bodies, or says they're opposed to wars abroad, but votes for Republicans who initiate genocidal sanctions on the people of Korea. You can't even import baby formula into North Korea. The sanctions by the Democrat and Republican leaders are so bad. We want to sit here and ask why they're launching missiles around. It's because they're doing another mock bombing raid of the Korean Peninsula. The last war in Korea saw the result of 20% of the Korean population being indiscriminately murdered by both Democrat and Republican presidents. So no, if you are a principled leftist, communist, socialist, entry into the Democratic Party shouldn't even be an option. We should not lose all of our values, and we should not lose everything we stand for just to pick a winner. That is not democracy. That is not how we bring opposition choices to the people. And that's not how we build our movements.
Okay, final question. Alex, is electoral politics really a way out of these issues facing everyday Americans?
Yes and no. Yes, in theory, but no, sometimes in practicality, because at least I personally believe that at some level, pushing issues is also half the battle. I believe a political party isn't just for getting people elected. I believe it's also for advocating and pushing for policy change. Because, for example, the Libertarian Party of Ohio, we didn't just advocate for, like, say, trying to get some independents on the ballot, which worked for us to say, oh, we support, like, someone, like a few of us supported LaShonda, and then some were interested in looking at someone like Tammy Wilson and seeing if they would consider joining our party and whatnot. But like, one of our main things we did this time around was to push for a ballot initiative for ending qualified immunity and also advocating for the removal of cash bail. We personally believe that qualified immunity goes too far. It prevents police from getting any sort of true justice. It's like, it allowed Mike DeWine to lock us in our homes just as much as it does allow Derek Chauvin to spend almost a year outside of a jail cell. Like, the fact of the matter is, it should have been clear that he killed that man, but we spent a year debating whether or not it was real, whether or not that's what happened. And there were moments where people questioned whether or not he was going to get punished for what he did. So that's why we want to get rid of qualified immunity, so that we don't protect politicians, we don't protect corrupt police officers, we don't protect anybody who falls under that umbrella in an unjust manner. And then when it comes to cash bail, we advocated for its removal completely, but didn't vote for issue one and for most libertarians' cases because we felt it didn't go far enough. It just simply limited some things to appease the side of the aisle instead of completely get rid of it. Because we've noticed that cash bail does more to keep a person who smokes marijuana in prison than it does a doctor that tried to kill his wife, because the doctor is the one that has the money. And when you hit a certain threshold financially, percentages don't matter. You're going to find yourself wanting to actually pay your way out, and you're going to have that money as to where you could pay somebody to help offset it, and then you can just loan them money later, or like pay them back, whatever's easiest. Whereas a person who's poor might see that 20% or something, say, is their cash bail. they can't afford to just pay some of that and push it off in most cases. So they would be struggling to pay that off at all and end up sitting in a jail cell. And even if they get found innocent,
Time is up.
Luke, is electoral politics really a way out of the issues facing everyday Americans?
Electoral politics are a necessary step towards bringing solutions to the injustices we face across the United States. But when we take a look at the struggles for progress and democracy in our country's history, we do not see advancements made for working people by the goodwill of our government. Each and every step towards progress has been demanded for and fought for by the working people of our country. When the 5-day work week and 8-hour day were put to law, it was the unions who were responsible. And when women gained their long overdue right to vote, it was because working women demanded and not requested. The United States needs revolutionary change. Working people need to use every tool at their disposal, and that includes our vote. Will voting alone bring about revolutionary change? Absolutely not. But to shun participation in electoral politics and concede state power to the right wing is foolish.
Okay. Austin, is electoral politics really a way out of the issues facing everyday Americans?
I agree with both of our representatives from the Communist Party and Libertarian Party. I do not believe it's not our full saving grace. The electoral politics is not one, we should not 100% invest in, we should not 100% invest in electoral politics. It is an important stepping stone. We can use the raising of the consciousness of electoral seasons and electoral campaigns to push important issues to the voters and to the people. However, I do not believe we should 100% rely on elections only. We should be organizing with labor unions. We should be organizing with LGBT organizations, environmental organizations, women's organizations, immigrant organizations, migrant labor unions, those types of things to bring about the real change that we need from the ground up. While electoral politics can be a tool, and while we might get a victory every now and again in local elections, it's not 100% what we should be banking on all of the time. But again, yeah, our goal is to get our representatives elected, and our goal is to be represented inside of the system. But again, it should not be our sole focus.
That was our final question. I ask if our participants have any last words before we end it.
I would just encourage people to look at all third-party options. If you're not interested in the Libertarian Party, there is other parties out for you. There are similar parties to the Libertarian Party that are much, much smaller and basically non-existent. But always feel welcome to look at the Libertarian Party. And specifically, if you're interested, shameless plug, check out the Classical Liberal Caucus. We are a little more of like a moderate type of caucus within the Libertarian Party that leans sometimes to the left. And we are willing to hear other people's ideas that are not within the Libertarian Party. And if you are interested in getting involved with the Libertarian Party of Ohio, feel free to visit the LPO website, reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, other apps we may have a profile on, or look up your local state party. Feel free to reach out to me or anyone else you may know that's within the party and see if there's a way to get involved. And if you want to run for office, feel completely free to do so. We could easily endorse you as an independent if you fit within enough of our scope.
I would close by saying, if you sell your labor for a wage, if you pay taxes, you are being robbed every day. The capitalist class is making so much money off of all of us, and they're sending it overseas to fund the war in Ukraine. And we hardly have enough, money to feed our children in schools. The school lunch debt exists in this country. The capitalist class has gotten out of control, and it's time to rein them in. Like I said, if you sell your labor for a wage, if you pay taxes, you are a worker. The capitalist class is minuscule, and the Communist Party USA represents workers. Go to cpusa.org to read our party program.
And as for the Greens, the issues our state faces are not one-off events. From environment to social justice to housing, women's issues, all of our struggles are interconnected. And as Greens, we do not back down from a predicament. Our lawsuits have sent corrupt public elections officials to prison before, and our local activists have been working tirelessly to protect our local ecological communities from corporate domination. When it comes to women's issues, the Green Party has been on the front line fighting far-right abortion bans and fighting the sale of firearms to those convicted of domestic violence. There is no anti-discrimination law in the state of Ohio when it comes to gender identity or sexuality. You can get denied a job, kicked out of your house, all for being who you are and loving who you love. If your former partner is convicted of domestic violence, they can still purchase a firearm in the state of Ohio. Most of the women who suffer from domestic violence suffer from somebody who they know. And the Greens are on the forefront of racial justice and economic inequality. And we've been fighting the fight against police brutality and state violence against Indigenous people and Black and Brown people. So we ask you this, if not now, when?
Thank you all for watching. My name is Marco, and bye.